I think Mr. Jim Batchelor sitting beside you now. Has it been determined if Mr. Thamond is representing this person?
We don't know, Your Honor. He just called us the representative,
Okay.
if anyone.
The defendant says that he has not talked to Mr. Lamont.
All right, well, this is a bond hearing. Mr. Seeley, you are entitled to have a bond set in this case. You are charged with murder in that you did intentionally cause the death of another person, Richard Holland, by shooting him with a .44 caliber pistol and mutilating his body with a machete in violation of the Code of Alabama. Do you have any questions concerning this warrant or anything?
I'm so confused right now. I don't know what to ask.
Okay. All right, Mr. Curley, do you have a recommendation on the bond?
500,000, Your Honor.
That's pretty exorbitant on a straight murder charge.
He's charged with a heinous crime too, Your Honor.
We request 25,000.
Based on the fact that the defendant has previously left, Ms. Sue, you are entitled to have an attorney appointed to represent you. You cannot afford one. And I'd also tell you that this morning that you have the right to have a preliminary hearing in the case. Mr. Batchelor, would you mind accepting an appointment to represent Mr. Seeley?
Sheriff, there was some mention in the courtroom about that did he try to commit suicide or something? What happened yesterday?
He just went into his normal withdrawal as an alcoholic will and scratched his arm with the comb. That's the reason you saw the blood on the trousers.
Okay. And are you disappointed? How do you feel about the bond being set?
I think the bond was very fair. I don't think the defendant will make this type bond, but he's entitled to it, and I think very fair.
What about the forensics evidence? Do you expect to receive that today?
Hopefully we'll have some results from the lab over there today.
Anything else that you need to add to where we are right now in this case?
No, we're just waiting on the autopsy findings and the lab work to come back, and we feel like we have a good case, so we're just waiting to get the end result.
Okay. And ballistics you'll receive today too?
Right.
Mr. Curley, you asked for a higher bond than was set. Why did you ask for $500,000?
Well, I want to be sure we'd get one he couldn't make. Of course, we always ask higher than what we expect the judge to levy. I think a bond really was fair.
Okay. You said he had already left the state. What were you referring to there?
Well, we caught him right on, I said we, and I want to compliment the law enforcement officers for their diligent efforts in this case. I think they've done a wonderful job. It's my understanding he left the state of Alabama and was apprehended in Coffeyville, Mississippi. And that's right on the line of Mississippi and Tennessee, is my understanding.
Are there fears that he might try to do something drastic?
Well, if I was in his shape, I'd try to escape. I don't know what he'll do. Whether he may try to commit suicide, something we have no way of knowing.
Thank you.
I think they've done an outstanding job in preparing this case for prosecution. And so far as I know, when we get all our reports in, it should be a comparatively good case, or a good case, I'd say, for trial.
Any idea when that will be?
Well, unless we set something special, they have not set a new term of grand jury, which they usually do between Christmas and New Year's of each year. Probably be in January before we have our grand jury, but in the meantime, if he requests a preliminary hearing, we'll have that before then.
Said, who is served here?
All the rejects, those persons whom people feel that is useless. It's a lost case, youngsters from 16 to 21. That's our concentration. One of the things that I would like to say is that that's the hope of the nation, the world. You know, if we forget that, you know, if we just leave them to just do like a raisin to just dry out, I'm afraid we're going to be the sacrificial lambs in it. But really, youngsters who can't get their personalities together, the disciplines, attitudes, the philosophy of the world of work. This is one of the strengths of our program, because 16 to 21 young persons today, they look at television, they can hit drugs, they can do anything and survive. But we feel very strongly that this is the group that has the greatest need that we see now, with the unemployment as it is, with longevity, with people working longer years, that we've got to address this. And it is a problem in the nation, that youth unemployment is a problem. That's why in the act, the New Jobs Training Partnership Act, most of the money is geared for the youth. Most of the money in that act, almost half of the money, is designated for youth, because the Congress recognizes this is an area of great concern. And one of the problems that we have found, that many of our young people who come to us have been dropped out of school, they got in trouble, some are pushed out, and some feel it's very hopeless. And I was telling you earlier that this is the area in which we feel so exciting, really exciting. Our placement rate is 100%. These are young people who people have written off. The public schools have written them off by the mere fact that they have been put out of school and no one else went back out there to try to help them. And it's a sad thing, really. It's really sad. This is why you're having problems with getting taxes to support public education, because they see that there are so many young people who ought to be in school, who ought to be productive, are not. And this is why taxpayers, I believe, have gotten very discouraged with public education. Unless we change this, cycle, vicious cycle, I hate to think of what will happen to us.
Well, you must be doing something right here. What do you try to build in that the schools are missing? What are you doing right?
First, I like to build in self-worth. That's number one. You're worth something. Then attitude, disciplines. When I say discipline, I don't mean with strap and probation, but give them what they need to know. Information is a form of discipline. Getting people to be responsible. These are young, leave 16 to 21, they're at that borderline of development psychologically. And that's what and most of these young people who are in trouble, they have a sense and a need for an economic base. Many of them come from very poor homes, welfare been the way of life, subsidy, and they have a need. They see on television what the better life is, and they do some things that shouldn't be done to get. And we say get a job, then you go back to school, you can develop your career ladder, but first get a job. And that's where we feel they are independent yet dependent young people. Very independent-minded, but dependent when it comes to their basic needs. So that's what they have a longing to be successful. Young people, and just like you and I was, when we were coming up, we longed, we built those dreams and our castles, and we wish someday that some things will happen. Unfortunately for many of our young people, this was probably deferred for a time, and we are trying to reestablish that, get them to reestablish by getting jobs, and then after jobs, a good job, then you won't have a lot of babies. A lot of girls having babies because a pastime, really a pastime, an economic base for them. And we said that training and getting jobs and self-sustaining yourself, is an alternative to welfare. And it's one of the best, I think.
You said something about building a better America, too. Could you touch back on that?
Sure. I said this. We've just been honored as the top job placement program under the new JOPA Act, which is just 9 months old. It's a 10-year act. And we were selected, we were recommended by our beloved governor, Governor Wallace. These recommendations came from all governors from every state. And we were in competition with all 50 states. And we won the job in the category of youth. We have a 100% placement. And one of the things, Lynn, that I'm afraid if we don't look within, the greatest bomb, the worst tragedy, the most deprivation exists is when young people are not given a hand up instead of a hand out. Because when you give a person a hand out, just like Senator Denton wrote me a letter last week, and he congratulated us, and he's been so supportive. He and Congressman Dickerson, Senator Heflin, been so supportive to us. And he said, you give a man a fish, he'll eat a day. Give him a hook, and he'll eat from now on, because he can catch his fish. One of the greatest problems that I'm afraid, and I really feel very, very strong about this, and I'm very fearful of it, because we're working with these young dynamos, is when we just leave these youngsters to flaunter, to do whatever they want to do, no structure, that I'm afraid that the fear that's going to come on us is not going to be from bombs. It's going to be when we have allowed these young people to just rear themselves, just do what they want to do, and not try to instill into them the values of human worth. That means you're not going to kill people. The values of young ladies being responsible for what happened to their personal lives, as far as getting a lot of babies. There is an alternative to this, that you can't support yourself. How can you support all these babies? And you know, it scares me because you and I and other taxpayers are going to stop taking care of all this. And what's going to happen is going to be, I hate to think of it, for us to be a whole America, we cannot be a whole America unless we take care, address the future of the youth of this nation. We won't be a whole America, you know, unless we decide what is important. The big bombers, or a young person in Alabama learning a good skill where they can pay taxes and improve their standards of living. You know, we have to make a decision. We have to set some priorities. And we don't have the luxury to say we'll do this tomorrow. It's something we got to address today, because these young people are constantly going out into the world.
You sound like a woman with a mission. You used to be a teacher. Do you have a sense of mission about what you're doing?
Yes, yes. It's very, my mission, I left the classrooms in 1967 because I saw the problem that I was trying to work through. I was dissatisfied because youngsters couldn't read, that we were producing young people into the world that did not have the basics to just live, to eat and sleep. And with all this mechanization, modernization, a person can't read, can't go nowhere, because everything is instant now, computerized. And I left the classroom because I could not fulfill what the good Lord had given me. He gave me the will to go out and help and change minds, change attitudes. And I couldn't do it there because of you had so much problems of I once said there were stacks of bureaucracies by which to work through. And all you're talking about, that young people ought to be able to read and function in this society when they come out these schools. Lynn, when our parent, and I'm sure you know our parent didn't go to 6th and 7th grade, but they were intelligent, they could function, they bought property, mine didn't get rich, but some of the others got rich. They built houses, schools, institutions. And when you look at what do we produce out of all this, and another thing I said to everybody,